Welcome to the open source firewall presentation. My name is Chuck Gray. I will be presenting today on the open source firewall. Our group members, Allan Carls, Adam Hiatt, Paul Barker, and myself. Firewalls. The primary purpose of a firewall is to filter traffic. Firewalls inspect packets as they pass through, and based on the criteria that the administrator has defined, the firewall allows or denies each packet. Firewalls block everything that you haven't specifically allowed. Firewalls add extra layers of security for your system. Depending on the software you choose to use for your firewall, it can do more than just filter packets. It can scan for viruses, malicious malware, and of course, it can help to protect your system from threats while browsing. Open source firewalls are a great resource to help better protect your computer. That said, there are some concerns that are stated on the risk versus value of open source software. If you're not careful by downloading open source software from the internet, you may also be downloading unknown malware if you're doing so from an untrusted resource. During the research, it became more clear the differences in security that exist between the Windows operating system and the OS operating system for Macs. As a Mac user, it was difficult to find any open source firewalls that would install on the OS X because it was not from a trusted source. Without jailbreaking the operating system, you're only able to download firewalls from the Mac store. In our search for open source firewalls, we came across many different options. In those options, we settled on Komodo. Komodo is an award-winning open source firewall. Komodo offers a great UI experience, which we'll demonstrate here momentarily. With easy navigation tools and a desktop view to access the features quickly, here are a few of the features provided by Komodo Firewall. Default deny protection ensures only known PC-safe applications execute. Prevention-based security. It stops viruses and malware before they access your computer. Auto sandbox technology. The sandbox is a virtual operating environment for untrusted programs. This isolates potential threatening software from the rest of your computer. Precise and specific alert system. Warnings that specify the level and type of possible threat from each source. Finally, easy to configure. Tell the free firewall to scan upon installation, and then add all current applications to the safe list. Let's take a look at Komodo and see how easy it is to navigate this open source firewall. As you can see, it's got a beautiful desktop, great dashboard to be able to understand at a glance if there are any issues with your system and/or how to access exactly what's necessary within your firewall. Let's take a look at some of the features. On the bottom here, you see several different options. There's a scanning option, and this will allow us to be able to scan our entire system for our files. It will build the list here. It will obviously it will show the amount of time that it's taking. If I were to leave, as I'm heading off to work, I can click here and it will turn off the computer if no threats are found at the end of the scan. And so off I can leave, I can come back, computer's off, computer's still on. I know that there's an issue and that there's action that needs to be taken place. Unfortunately, this is a pretty extensive time process, and so based on the restraints of the presentation, I'll go ahead and stop that for now. What's great though is by stopping, we'll still get an understanding of what it provides after the scanning was completed. So you see that there were no files completed at all, 0%. So based on that, we have a trust level of 0 because there was nothing completed. So because we don't know what's on our computer or the files that have been tested, then we don't have an understanding of the trust level. It will then identify the trusted files. Again, 0 currently because there's nothing that we scanned yet. Unrecognized files and malicious files. We can go into an understanding later. So as we look at malicious files and unrecognized files, we can take action based on those files. Let's go continue. You can do a manual update. There are auto settings for the system to update automatically. Here you can see that it checked for website database updates, recognizer updates, and then for program updates. And currently we are all up to date. By being all up to date, we know that we have the most current software installed, and so thus we have the most current protections against the most recent and recognized viruses and malware that exist, or that are known to exist. In a virtual desktop, this requires the use of installing Silverlight, and then that will allow you to be able to operate it as a virtual desktop. You can view your quarantine files here, and we'll go into this in just a moment through some other scans and actions that the firewall takes. Once it identifies those quarantine files, those would then be located here. And then what was great about the Komodo firewall, outside of the other firewalls that we found, many of the open source firewalls were either volunteer based, so any support that you needed was found through either emailing folks that were volunteers, looking at forums, similar to a Stack Overflow, but it's more based on that particular firewall. And then you have blogs and other media types or media files, PDFs, that you could download and kind of navigate your way through. Here with Komodo, you've got live support, which is outstanding. So when you click on the Get Live Support, you're able to interact with someone live and be able to work through those questions. You have a game mode. The game mode was interesting. When you click on the game mode, what this does is it kind of reduces the power consumption or the use of the RAM based on the databases and things that it's scanning. So that if you're in a gaming environment where you have need to connect to the internet, this will allow the gamer to not have any delays in their play and be able to play in a much better environment. So taking game mode off, you're going to have more behind the scenes power being consumed on your CPU and your hard drive, RAM, and then that will allow us to continue to maintain a safe environment for our computer. You can see the different things that are being operated right now on the system. So currently just Chrome, as you can see down here, is being operated. So we'll go into the settings, and there are a lot of settings. So it is like most of the other firewalls that we reviewed, it will take a good amount of time to be able to become an expert at the fine level detail of the overall software. It's enriched with many features, and we'll take a look at that now. So you have your general settings. We'll start up here in our general settings. In general settings, you normally have your user interface, which you can see here, show messages, notifications, welcome screen in the startup. So simple things here: play an alert, play sound when an alert is shown. You can password protect. Clicking here and then setting your password will allow you to be able to do that. Updates. So here, where I mentioned before, I've got updates that are checking every day. Automatically download program updates. Check database updates every 6 hours. Again, I can change those as needed, and I can also do the manual update, which I already demonstrated. Logging is a fantastic feature, and so for those that don't have much exposure to programming, in programming, especially in a testing environment, logs are critical in order to understand what's gone wrong. So here, when you have critical events like malware events, firewall events, when those fire, you will then have that event logged to your local log database in a Komodo format. Now, if you wanted to use a Windows events log, you could simply check on that, and it would complete that for you as well. Not necessary. I'm perfectly fine by using the local log database, and then I can go in and understand exactly what's happening. The log file management, I can set this size at any level. It comes auto set at 20 megabytes. Currently fine for now until I see any additional increase in scans or viruses that would cause the alert file or the log to increase. So it will delete and create a new one after the 20 megabytes. I can also move it and then specify the folder in which I want that log file. So if I need to back up my system and have a history of every activity that took place, small business environment, small or medium business environment would be a particular setting for that. Then I could create my folder and go in and put the log file exactly where I need to after it got to that 20 megabyte file. It would then create a new one, but then I would have the old one to be able to utilize at a later time. We've chosen to send anonymous program usage statistics to Komodo. This simply will provide any of the crashes, errors, and clicks about the product. It will be sent anonymously, and then the information will be used by the engineers in order to better provide increased quality and better consistency with the product. And then you got your configurations. Need to delete instead of move. That's why it was asking for this specified folder. Then you can go in your configurations. Currently, I've got it set up as a firewall security. You can also set it proactive security or internet security. By choosing any of these three items, you double click on it, and then it would then require a system reboot. So for now, during the presentation, we've got it set for firewall security, which is what I feel is necessary for the current uses that I have on this particular computer. You can go into your firewall settings, and here's where you can really start to customize the experience that you have. Do not show pop-up alerts, or you could allow them. You can enable Trust Connect alerts, turn traffic animation effects on. You've got some advanced features here as well, and it took me a little bit of understanding it took me a little bit of research to understand exactly what some of these things are. For example, filter IPv6. If you're not familiar with that terminology, it's Internet Protocol version 6. It's the most recent version of the Internet Protocol, the communications protocol that provides an identification and location system for computers on networks and routes, route traffics across the internet. So you can filter based on the Internet Protocol. Additionally, enable anti-ARP spoofing. Again, this was something that didn't ring a bell with me, and so we did some additional research. ARP spoofing is a type of an attack in which a malicious actor sends falsified ARP. So what's an ARP? Address Resolution Protocol. So they'll send falsified ARP messages over a local area network. Now, this will result in the linking of an attacker's MAC address with the IP address of a legitimate computer or server on the network. And so now, if you think of spoofing, now you're creating, you're giving the attacker access to your computer in our network. They're changing or linking the IP addresses, and then they're able to leverage that for any of their cyber criminal activities. Then you have application rules. You've got global rules that are set. I'll go in here into detail on the rule set, and you can kind of see the great deal of complexity that's exists in a really rich and robust feature product. So if we double click on the web browser, you're going to see all the different settings. So currently we have allow access to loop back zones, HTTP request, FTP request, DNS request. Then we've got block and log alt and matching requests. So again, going back to the logging file that we talked about, here's another example of what would be logged. Then we can go into, let's say, the outgoing DNS requests. Double click on that. And here's where you can change. Instead of allow, I could block, I could ask, I could log that as a firewall event if the rule is fired. I can change the type from any address to that IPv6 we talked about, or IPv4 or MAC address. We've got the destination address. Oh, hit the wrong button here, hang on. So you've got the type, which could be the host name, network, or source ports. So port range, a set of ports, a single port, and then your destination ports, right? And then port numbers depending on what you want to utilize there. So a lot of customization that can be involved. And again, that's where Komodo, in its award-winning open source firewall category, it has such phenomenal resources on its website that will walk you through all the finer details within the system and what its benefits are for you. But you can see the ability to go through the features and the settings. It's very user-friendly. The screen itself, or the layout, has a strong UI. Allows you to be able to navigate through exactly what's necessary for your use. So now we'll go back to the dashboard here. You can see that we've got 0 blocked intrusion. Sandbox apps, we have 8 sandboxed apps. And you can see the different things that has been sandboxed. All these are executable files. And you can see kind of the company that has them, or where the company is, the username, the restriction, and the rating. So it's fantastic to be able to see. Blocked intrusions, we don't have any currently, so that's great. It's interesting too that as I installed, I saw this little box here, which will be available on your system, or you can just minimize. But when we first installed, this was not secure. There was, in fact, a virus on my computer. It identified it, and then it terminated it. And so it went from not secured to secured. And that was actually pretty fantastic to be able to go through that experience. Here you can see the inbound traffic. You can also see the outbound traffic that exists. I thought this may occur, which is great. Because of one of the settings that we changed, it requires a reboot. So for purposes now, I can set it for 30 minutes, I can set it for an hour, I could set it for 4 hours. For now, I'm just going to postpone it. Once I'm complete with the presentation, then I'll manually restart, and then that will allow everything to fall in place, and everything will be updated based on those changes in settings. So with that, we've gone over the firewall features. We've gone over the auto sandbox, the blocked intrusion, the sandbox applications. You can see the small quick dashboard here, the ability to scan, update, utilize the virtual desktop, look at your view quarantine, and then as well as your Get Live support. Komodo Firewall, a very powerful open source software, something that after the many hours of research, I think we've delivered on a software that we feel comfortable with, and very user-friendly, and something that will add additional layers of security. So with that, if there are any additional questions, please feel free to drop some of those questions into the discussion board, and we'll look forward to answering those for you. Thank you so much for watching. We appreciate your time, and we will conclude this presentation of open source firewalls. Thank you so much.